We believe that Diaz's connection to California is significant because we know, as mentioned earlier, the Mexican cartels smuggle into our country over the southwest border.
You ever hear about someone caught with enough stuff to shut down a whole block, facing life behind bars, and then, boom, he's back home like nothing ever happened? That's exactly what just went down with Future's older brother, FBG Casino. One day, feds are breaking down doors, finding 21 kilos of serious heat, almost $400,000 in cash, and a Glock just sitting there like it's part of the furniture. The next thing you know, this man's back on Instagram, chilling on his couch with a drink in his hand like the whole raid was just a nightmare he woke up from. And Future, the guy who can turn any family mess into a chart-topping hit, is suddenly silent. Not a word. Wild, right? Maybe it's some top-tier legal magic. Or maybe, just maybe, there's something bigger going on behind the scenes. People are already whispering, what did he give up to walk away clean like that? Because when it comes to federal charges, the government doesn't just shrug and say, our bad. This wasn't some random bust either. It was a full-blown operation. The kind so coordinated it could have been lifted straight out of a Hollywood crime flick. November 14th, 2025, Forest Park, Georgia. The FBI, DEA, and local cops storm an Airbnb like it's straight out of an action movie. Casino tries to make a run for it, slipping out a side door with just $4,000 in his pocket while inside sits a trafficker's dream setup. We're talking 21 kilos of some powerful stuff, enough to cause chaos across an entire city. Cash stacked so high they had to split it between rooms just to count it all. There's a Glock 19, a money counter spinning nonstop, and even a food sealer for packing up product like it's part of a factory line. This wasn't no small hustle. This was an empire in motion, each brick stamped with a designer logo, like luxury branding for the underworld. The feds weren't just locking someone up, they were shutting down a full pipeline. But just a few weeks later, the same man is sitting at home drinking coffee, scrolling his phone, and watching that ankle monitor blink. People online can't stop asking the same thing. What did he trade to walk free like that? And the math ain't mathin' either. Casino claimed he only made $2,166 a month running a studio, but somehow he's living in a $4 million mansion, pushing top-tier whips and showing off a lifestyle most rappers couldn't afford. Prosecutors didn't just arrest him, they flipped his own social media against him. They matched that luxury bag stuffed with $80,000 cash to the exact same one he flashed on Instagram months before. This wasn't some slip-up, this was a man moving like he couldn't be touched until the walls came crashing down. And just when it looked like it was over for him, those same walls suddenly opened right back up. He somehow lands a $100,000 bond on a federal case that could have had him facing life behind bars. That kind of deal doesn't just fall from the sky, not unless someone's talking, not unless some kind of agreement got made behind closed doors. His lawyers swear everything's clean, but the streets aren't buying a word of it, and neither are the feds, who fought hard to keep him locked down, calling him a serious flight risk with way too much to lose. Then there's Future, dead silent. When your own brother's staring at a possible life sentence, you'd expect at least a post, a shout out, something, but nothing. Not even a whisper. That silence is shaking the internet and it's only making people talk louder. Word is the free bands camp is deep in cleanup mode, trying to keep the situation from exploding. But this isn't just about family drama, it's about survival. The feds named the whole thing Operation Takeback America, a massive crackdown on global networks. Meaning this bust wasn't a one-off. There are more names, more targets, and way more indictments still coming. And if Casino's sudden release means anything, it screams that someone's talking. The real mystery is who and what exactly are they saying. Let's rewind to that raid because the details are where this whole story starts to explode. Forest Park ain't some hidden back road trap. It's just 15 minutes from downtown Atlanta. The perfect spot for a smooth distribution setup. The place wasn't even his. It was an Airbnb. No paperwork, no permanent ties, just a short-term rental that could be ditched in hours if things got hot. That's how you know this wasn't random. The feds had been clocking him for a minute. Surveillance, informants, maybe even wiretaps. They had eyes and ears everywhere. By the time they busted that door open, they already knew exactly what was waiting inside. They knew about the stacks of cash tucked in cardboard boxes, the luxury bag loaded with $80,000, the Glock, the money counter, and even the food sealer used to package product.
See, with Casino, he did try the rap thing, and it did do okay in the beginning. But, you know, being lazy, not really caring about being a rapper, never wanted to be a rapper. He just seen the opportunity, like, I could just jump on these tracks, and I'm hard. It's gonna go, because Future screwed him. Yeah, really lazy. He ain't like this right here. That's why Future distanced himself. The money that Future get him, yeah, just flip it.
They knew about the 21 kilos of dangerous stuff prosecutors later said were poisoning communities. And then comes the name that changed everything. 23-year-old David Esteban Monte Diaz, Prosecutors say he was right in the middle of a deal with Casino when the raid went down. That age gap, 41-year-old Casino working with someone barely out of his teens, shows this wasn't just a neighborhood hustle. This was a full-on bridge between generations, connecting street-level players to something way bigger and way more organized. The arrest itself went down like a movie scene. Agents moved in fast. Casino made a break for it, but they caught him outside with just $4,000 in his pocket. Inside, though, they uncovered the real story. But here's the part that should give you chills, because this wasn't just about the cash or the kilos. The feds didn't stop at the evidence in the house. They went digital. They seized his social media too. That Goyard bag stuffed with $80,000, prosecutors matched it perfectly to a flex post he dropped months before. His own Instagram became Exhibit A. They used it to claim he was lying about his income, saying what he posted didn't match what he declared. In 2025, your feed isn't just clout, it's evidence. And this evidence, it could have buried him for life. So how did he walk out so easily? That's where things get foggy. On November 26th, a magistrate judge shocked everyone by granting him bond. The government pushed back hard, arguing he was a major flight risk with a life sentence hanging over his head. But by December 2nd, the ruling stuck. $100,000 bond backed by his girlfriend's house, and just like that, Casino was free. Well, technically free, ankle monitor and all. People close to him swear it was top-tier legal work that saved him, but the streets aren't buying that story. Because the second he posted that first Instagram story after getting out, the whispers got loud, real loud. People started saying Omerta, the code of silence, was officially broken. And when that code breaks, everything changes. That kind of talk, Omerta, the code of silence, doesn't just pop up for no reason. It means people are asking hard questions. And in Atlanta, when a man facing life suddenly walks free, those questions don't just spread, they get dangerous. Because this federal case, it's not just about Casino and Diaz, it's part of something way bigger. Prosecutors have dropped hints about transnational networks, maybe even cartel connections. And those Louis Vuitton stamp packages, that's not street-level creativity. That's branding. That's precision. That kind of move screams organization, money, and power. It points to an operation way beyond one Airbnb in Forest Park. And here's the scary part. If the feds are still digging, that means this story isn't over. More names could surface, more doors could get kicked in, and more arrests might follow. So everyone's asking the same thing. Did Casino walk because he's cooperating or because someone else already did? Then there's Future, completely silent. The man built his whole career on raw honesty, turning pain and chaos into platinum hits. But when it comes to his brother's case, not a post, not a lyric, not a sound, that silence isn't random. It's calculated, because if Casino is talking, Future can't risk showing support. And if he's not talking, maybe the family's just waiting to see who gets caught next. Either way, the pressure's sky high. Free Bands isn't just a label, it's a movement, a whole empire. And right now, that empire's got more eyes on it than ever. But brands don't walk away untouched from federal indictments unless somebody's willing to take a hit for the team. The hip-hop world's watching this unfold like a live thriller, because this isn't just one man's legal nightmare. This is proof the entire game has changed. The feds aren't just chasing substances anymore, they're studying your whole image. Social media, lyrics, music videos, the lifestyle you show off, it's all part of their playbook now. That Instagram flex, it turns into Exhibit A. That bar you spit about moving weight, suddenly it's a confession. And staying quiet, that silence gets read like guilt. Casino's case isn't just drama. It's a loud, flashing warning for everyone in the industry. The days of skating in the gray zone are done. You're either clean or you're a target. No middle ground left. So where does that leave Casino? He might be out on bond, but that doesn't mean he's free. He's stuck at home, wearing an ankle monitor, waiting on a trial that could bury him for life. Meanwhile, his co-defendant Diaz is still sitting in a cell, staring at the same charges. The feds are stacking their evidence piece by piece, and from what's out there, it looks airtight. They're not sweating a conviction, not even a little. And while all this plays out, Future's whole empire is hanging by a thread. Because one wrong post, one bad statement, and the entire Free Bands machine could come crashing down. The streets are buzzing, the feds are tuned in, and somewhere in between, a family's fighting to keep it together through the chaos. But here's the wild part. This story isn't just about Casino. The feds labeled this raid as part of Operation Takeback America, a massive multi-agency strike on networks that reach way beyond state lines. That means this wasn't some random bust. It was one piece of a much bigger puzzle. And if Casino's release tells us anything, it's that somebody's talking. The real question is, who and what are they spilling? Because in Atlanta, when the feds start knocking, the real story ain't about who got caught, it's about who's next. Let's keep it real. When the FBI, DEA, and Homeland Security pull up together to kick in a door, they're not chasing small-timers. That kind of lineup means they've already mapped out an entire network. And in Casino's case, the details don't just whisper that, they scream it. Think about it. A 23-year-old co-defendant from Coachella, California, sitting in a Georgia Airbnb with 21 kilos of high-grade products stamped with luxury logos. That's not street hustle. That's international pipeline energy. The cash wasn't just piled in one spot either. It was spread like a mini bank vault. Around $300,000 stashed in the kitchen, another $80,000 tucked in that designer bag.
Meantime, FBI agents here in Atlanta say they just seized enough to millions of people. Atlanta News First, Bridget Spencer is live from the FBI Atlanta field office. And Bridget, that wasn't the only thing they found.
And $4,000 in Casino's pocket when he tried to make his run. This wasn't some basic trap house. This was a full-blown distribution hub. And if Casino was the one holding the bag, literally, then the real question isn't just what he was doing there, it's who he was doing it for. It's not just about who got caught, it's about who didn't show up because someone else was clearly meant to be there that day. Now let's talk about that bond. $100,000 to walk free in a federal case with a mandatory minimum of 10 years? That's not luck, that's leverage. Either Casino's legal team pulled off some courtroom magic or someone gave the feds a real good reason to ease up. And when we say someone, we're not just talking about Casino. The whispers in the streets are already loud. And that word, omerta, the code of silence, wasn't just tossed around by fans. It showed up right in his own post. The same man who just walked on a bond that makes zero sense in the federal world. But here's the cold truth about these cases. Silence doesn't buy you freedom, information does. So what exactly does he know? And maybe more importantly, who is he protecting? Because when it comes to this kind of case with that much money, that much product, and that kind of reach, the feds don't care about the small players. They want the architects, the shot callers, the people running the show. And if Casino's sudden release means anything, it's that the feds might already be getting what they came for. Which brings us right to Future, the man who's turned every fight, heartbreak, and late-night studio grind into multi-platinum hits. The king of oversharing, the guy who made pain his brand, now suddenly silent when it comes to the one story everyone wants to hear. So where's the song about his brother's arrest? Where's the Instagram post, the cryptic tweet, the shout out, anything? In an industry where run-ins with the law usually turn into lyrics, Future's silence isn't just noticeable, it's screaming. And make no mistake, that kind of silence doesn't happen by accident. When your brother's staring down a life sentence and the feds are sniffing around finances that don't make sense, staying quiet isn't just a choice, it's survival. So what's the move here? Is he lying low until the storm blows over? Or is there something deeper going on that's keeping him from speaking at all? Because if investigators start following the trail behind that $380,000 in seized cash, this stops being just Casino's problem and starts looking like a free bands situation. And free bands isn't just a label, it's a full-blown lifestyle, a money machine, and a powerful brand. But one thing's for sure, legit businesses don't usually keep rubber banded stacks and food sealers lying around unless there's a side hustle nobody's putting on record. Let's run the numbers because they don't lie. Casino claimed he only made $2,166 a month as a studio manager, but somehow he's living in a $4 million mansion, driving top-tier luxury cars, and showing off like he's got endless paper. Something in that equation doesn't add up, and the feds definitely noticed. The feds didn't just notice that income gap, they circled it in red ink and made it the centerpiece of their argument. They used it to claim Casino was a major flight risk. But here's the real question. If that $2,166 a month paycheck was just a front, then where was the real money coming from? Free bands might be a legit operation on paper, but legit businesses don't keep hundreds of thousands in cash sitting in an Airbnb with no paper trail. So where's the rest of the money? Who else was part of that movement? And if the feds start chasing those questions, how long before they start digging through the labels books? Because when you're dealing with that kind of cash flow, the trail never stops with one person. It always leads higher up the chain. And in this case, that trail could lead straight to the top. Now let's connect the dots. Casino wasn't some random rapper orbiting around the fame. He was Future's own brother, a free bands insider since day one. He toured with him on Purple Rain, hit the stage during the Summer 16 tour, popped up in tracks and music videos. He was part of the engine that kept the brand moving. And let's be honest, machines like that don't run on $2,000 a month. That's pocket change in the world he was living in. So if the money wasn't from music, then the question everyone's whispering is, where was it really coming from? If the feds are digging into Casino's finances, best believe they're not just looking at him. They're looking at everyone tied to the operation. Because if they spot inconsistencies, if the money flowing through free bands doesn't match the flashy lifestyle being flaunted online, then this stops being a controlled substance case and turns into something way heavier. That's when it becomes a financial case, a RICO case. And RICO cases don't just snatch one person, they take everybody down. Once the feds drop that charge, the whole circle gets pulled in. And there's another layer to this that makes it even more serious. The feds didn't call this Operation Take Back America just to sound dramatic. That's the kind of name reserved for missions targeting major organizations. We're talking transnational networks, cartel ties, and operations that don't stop at one Airbnb in Forest Park. So when people ask who else was involved, they're not just pointing at Casino's young co-defendant. They're thinking bigger: suppliers, distributors, maybe even insiders within the label who knew more than they should have. And if Casino's sudden release is tied to a bigger deal, if he's giving up names to save his own skin, then the burning question becomes, who's next? Because the feds don't stop. They don't forget, and they sure don't let someone facing life walk away for nothing. So here's where things stand. Casino might be out on bond, but he's far from free. He's sitting at home, strapped with an ankle monitor, waiting for a trial that could easily put him away for the rest of his life. The future's quiet, the label's quiet, but the streets, they're loud right now. The feds are still piecing their case together, and if history tells us anything, they've already got plenty stacked behind the scenes. But the real question isn't just what happens to Casino, it's what happens to free bands. Because if the money trail doesn't make sense, and if those connections run deeper than one flashy raid, then this isn't just a scandal, it's a full-on unraveling. And in Atlanta, once the feds start tugging on a loose thread, the whole sweater can come apart fast. Now here's where you come in. What do you think? Do you buy the story that Casino's release came down to sharp legal work? Or does it sound more like a quiet deal got made behind closed doors? And what about Future's silence? Does it mean he's protecting his brother or protecting himself? Drop your theories in the comments because this saga is nowhere near over. You know how these stories go. Once the feds get momentum, the next headline always hits harder. If you've been following this breakdown, make sure you like, subscribe, share, and hit that bell so you don't miss what comes next. Because when the next shoe drops, and it will, you'll want to be the first to see it. Stay tuned, stay safe, and remember, when the feds come knocking, nobody's ever really free. We'll catch you in the next one.